YouTube Nation, Manvic TV, aka Me TV, aka the 5-tool player, the five-time, you know what? Let me get started. 2 weeks. We've been at this for 2 weeks. This makes 3 now. All right, 3. 2 weeks before this, we have been talking about Nintendo raising prices and setting new standards and how the fans have been reacting. Today, I'm here to tell you that none of these companies care about you. All right, and I'm going to make this very well known. Okay, make this very well known today. So, as we know, Nintendo's raised prices. We've seen the standard. We've seen the backlash from fans to tell them, lower the price. And Nintendo's like, no, we're not going to lower the price. And we saw that. And then people was like, you know what? Well, then fuck you. I'm just going to take my money and go somewhere else. That's what they're going to do. We've seen this. So, if Nintendo doesn't learn, this is going to flop. But I think there's enough fans out there to try and make it do well that it won't. And that's the sad part. You know what I mean? People are like, well, the console price really isn't that much of a problem. I think people still need to realize that Nintendo was supposed to make this family affordable. Because that's what it's always been. It's always been the cheaper of the hardwares that we've seen in consoles, but it still gives you a big run for your money. You know, for such a small system, it has a big punch. You know, but that said, let me say now that even though fans are still upset and they're hoping that, they delayed their pre-order, all right, the pre-order stage, they've delayed that, hoping that fans would get over this, that will be just temporary anger. But I don't think that's going to be the case in this point. I'm really hoping it's not. I've seen some people online say, you know what, I just got to save up a couple extra paychecks to get it. And some people are absolutely fine with it. But to pay $90 games, which we will talk about later, because Nintendo, he's setting a new standard for me, bro. I don't understand. I told you this is going to happen, but we will talk about this first, because for those who don't know, with all the backlash Nintendo is getting, Sony says something, because we're like, this possibly can't get any worse, and then Sony says, hold my beer. So, let me get started with this. Sony says at first, former Sony PlayStation president Shuhei Yoshida wasn't entirely exuberant about the Switch 2's reveal. It said Nintendo is losing their identity. Okay. I'm just take it in. Take it in. Are you fucking kidding me? First off, I want to know, where did Sony's identity go? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Because I remember back in the PS3 days, Sony would say, you don't have to pay for online. We're never going to charge you for online. Yeah, that shit changed, didn't it? Thank you, Microsoft, because you can blame them for that shit. But, and everyone else followed suit. But Sony, you have to understand, Sony, when they're losing, they're very humble. We do this for fans. We love our community. We're trying to give you fans the best representation of a video game of quality that you can play in the future. They're very, very humble. But when they're winning, damn if they're not arrogant. So I have to ask, before we go any further with this, Mr. Yoshida, are you going to criticize Sony, your former place, or are you too scared to make waves there? I'm just wondering, for those who do not know what I'm talking about, Sony has decided to raise the prices on the PS5. That's right, raise the price on the PS5, the digital version more than the physical version in select countries. Now, look, understand that people are probably saying right now, well, it's not my country, I don't care. No, that's not how we do things as a community. That's not how it works. Because I'm telling you now, what's going on there is the testing ground for when it comes over here. You can't wait and say, well, I want to see how it impacts me, as opposed to how it impacts others. You have to help fight with them in order to fight against Sony, or any company for that matter, that decides it wants to try and screw you over. It's just really that simple. You have no choice. That's why it's community. Be there for your neighbor. That's what it is. Okay? But not only that, I'm sure you can see the prices that I have put up on the screen for you, and also understand that Sony, not only they're raising the prices when it comes to their PS5s, because, let's be honest here, it's a 6-year console, and this point in a life cycle, you usually see the prices decline. But in this case, they went up. But there's more that's going to go up. That's right, more. So for those who don't know, PSN has decided to go up as well. They're raising the price of PSN. It's bad enough you got a 3-tier system with PSN, but understand that PC players, they're laughing right now because they don't have to pay a subscription to play online. And that's the thing also. You have to understand that there's some games on Sony's system or on, I believe, Microsoft system as well, that you have to be always online for. You have to be always online. Even if it's a single-player game, you have to be always online. So last month, what did we see? We saw Sony network go down. And people were rage. And you know what? They have every right to be because they're paying for this to go smooth. So, of course, you're going to have PC players laughing saying, we don't have to pay for anything. And, and you have these cycles of consoles, which we will talk about. Because you have to get it. Oh, my God. You have to understand that we went from Sony's PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, PS4 Pro, PS5, PS5 Pro, half cycles when it comes to this stuff, trying to be a PC. Look, buy a PC if you want a PC. But Nintendo's trying to add it in too when it comes to these type of pieces. All right. Sony, Microsoft, they're the big ones that are the big offenders when it comes to, it comes with this and then you have to add more terabytes to it and we're only going to give you this much and the graphics are so crisp and, so lifelike that we have to, we don't compress everything. We just leave it uncompressed and then put it on your system and it takes up X amount of gigabytes. Yes, you too, Overwatch. You shouldn't take up 48 gigabytes on my PlayStation 4. It's ridiculous. If not more. Ridiculous. But, I will say that we need to move on. I want to make sure we understand this real quick because our next thing I said, I want to talk about Nintendo. Nintendo. A new standard. So let's put it up. Let's see it. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild's Nintendo Switch 2 edition won't include DLC. Won't include DLC. I can only imagine if they sold it separately. I can only imagine how much it would cost. But the Zelda titles are going to go for a pretty penny. You know that. So I would expect around the $80, $90 mark. I don't care how old a Zelda game is. They're going to sell because it's Zelda. Link is always around to sell it. Just like Dante's always around to sell Devil May Cry. It's the same thing. All right? He's the mascot. He's the flagship. So it goes to show you that when you see this, it's the first thing you think of, well, what the fuck about the DLC? Are they going? They're not including it? Are they going to give it to us later, or they're just not going to do it at all? Like it's up in the air as far as I'm concerned. But these companies do not care about you. I'm going to take this down too because we got to go to the next one. Ubisoft. Now, look, we saw how successful Assassin's Creed was, all right? And it's crazy because nobody likes Ubisoft. Nobody, okay? But when you had grifters, and I mean the dumbest of grifters, the ignorant, most grifters around, people started picking Ubisoft over the grifters, which goes to show you got to be some type of asshole for someone to pick Ubisoft over you. Just saying. But understanding real quick, Ubisoft is not your friend. They don't care. And every time they take one step forward, they go 3 steps back. That's what happens. So let's talk about this. Ubisoft has insisted that buying a game doesn't give players unfettered ownership rights to it. Only a limited license to access the game. And this is why you don't buy digital. Limited access. All right? That's what's going on. This is part of their lawsuit with the crew because they pulled the game from players who had already bought it and they were like, what the hell? You took our game away from us. We're going to sue you. And it was like, no, you don't own your game. We can do whatever we want with it. It's in our terms of service. And yeah, I'm telling you, all that 1,000 words in the, if not more, in the terms of service that people just scroll down and just try to get rid of, it's in there. Company jargon bullshit. That's how they protect their ass. But still, they should lose this as far as I'm concerned. It's ridiculous that they would even think of doing this. But they're telling you flat out, you don't own your games. So, look, if I don't own my games, then why should I give you money? Why should I? It's not like I'm renting it, and then if that's the case, then lower the price. Lower the price. You make it known. This is an X amount of day rental. This is not one of those, well, we can take away when we see fit. No, make it a rental. And like I said before, if you're going to buy a game and they say they can take it from you, you should be able to trade it into them. You should be able to get some money back. You should be able. These companies do not care about you. They don't. Like I said, when they're on the upswing, they forget about you. When they're down low, here they come groveling to you. That's what they do. But they never help you when you need help the most. Let's just, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this. Last one. I promise you. Last one. This is the last talk. We need to have this talk. So, young men are playing video games all day instead of getting jobs because they can mooch off of free health care, claims Congressman. Do you see this now? Now we're blaming video games and gamers. No, it's mostly gamers. They're blaming gamers so that they can try and turn it into a healthcare issue. Like, come on. This is the biggest fucking reach I've seen in a long time. But this is what they're doing. They've called you psychopaths. They say you play murder simulators. They say that you're loners. They say that you're incels. They call you everything that they can call you. Mass shooters. They call you everything. And not one time has a company said, you know what? We're going to step up and say, this is not our customer base. This is not how, they're represented. They should be represented as this case and such. And the company should come out and defend you, just like you blindly defend the games and the companies. These companies don't care about you. They see you as a number. They don't care what the media says about you, which they should care because you are their consumers. Not one time. I'll see a developer go out on his shield and say, this game is fine. You should, and he'll defend it. And y'all are wrong for not liking it. And you'll have other people say, well, this game or this anime or this whatever, type of media that you're watching or doing, that this is fine and you shouldn't complain about it. And that's when it comes to fans. You know what I mean? To critics. That's when it comes to developers. Companies will sit here and say nothing. Nothing. I can't remember the last time a company has come out and said, our consumers are being treated unfairly. And it shouldn't be that way. The media, the way they're trying to portray them is absolutely wrong. That's all it's got to be said. But they don't. Because they don't care about you. But they want your money. People, I know y'all tired of this. I know y'all tired of being accused of things. That's what gets you wound up. That's what gets you very defensive when things aren't going the right way. I get it. You get very defensive on it. You have people who are tourists come in, who didn't like video games beforehand until it got popular, and then they try and knock you down, even though you've been here for a long time. I see all that. I see all of it. But it goes to show you that companies don't have your best interest. They will raise prices and not defend you from others. As companies people like this congressman don't really go after the company as opposed to going after the gamer. But here's the thing. If he's talking about, they're only going to sit around and mooch off of free health care and this. Look, why don't you fix the economy? Oh, that's too much like right. Oh, you don't want to fix the economy then, huh? Just blame game all day. Blame game. Video games turn people into killers. Yeah, okay, right, okay. Now they're just sitting around mooching off of, off healthcare. Okay, so let me get this straight. Can you buy a video game with your food stamps? No. Can you buy a video game with, with said cash? Depending. depending on the place. But more than likely you can't. You don't get real cash. You get an access card as a excuse me, as a food stamps. That's what you get. Mostly they don't do food stamps anymore. Or unless they just, you want to call them that, just access card. Access debit. But you're not paying video games off that. So where are you getting the money to buy the video game to sit on your ass to play? Some of you are not even old enough to have a job. So, I don't understand. Mom and dad is taking care of you. Maybe you're a college student, you just graduated college and you're looking for a job, but it's hard to find one. You ever hear that term? Well, I want to apply for this job. Yeah, well, you need 5 years experience in order to get this job. But I just got out, but how am I supposed to get the experience if you don't, if you don't give me a chance? Maybe you're in one of those situations. Maybe you live with maybe 3 or 4 roommates. Then you can possibly afford to, to buy a game. There's many ways these things go, especially when it comes to students and college students. There's, there's definitely ways to go. People sitting at home that are adults, unless they're trying to make money off of, I doubt that, I really hope they're not sitting around trying to make money off of this, thinking it's their only out. Because that would be a real shame if that happened. But like I said, these are some times that, people got to get jobs. But that doesn't mean that you're mooching off of welfare. And also, video games are a way to escape reality. So even if you are poor, people deserve that mental peace. I don't understand. I would love to debate this guy. I would love to. And put him on his ass. He's a congressman who can actually make things happen and bring stuff to the table, but instead blame gamers. And companies are like, it's cool. Let them. We'll just keep making our product and they'll buy it. And then we'll ignore the rest of you on social media. All right, man. I'm done. I don't even like the way I did this video because I'm so pissed off. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. Till next time, God knows what else the fuck is going to come up. Until next time, I'll talk to y'all later. Y'all be safe. Please, fight for each other. Please, do so. If you don't do anything else, today, fight for each other when it comes to these prices. I'll talk to y'all later. I'm out.